Narcissist and Parental Alienation, Part 3. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, continuing to address the important topic of parental alienation. Parental alienation is a fairly recent idea, conceived in the 1980s by a psychiatrist, Dr. Richard Gardner, who argued that divorcing mothers desperate to win custody suits were brainwashing children against their fathers. Note, it's interesting that he goes along the gender lines with regard to stating that this is behaving. There is no doubt whatsoever that there are individuals who seek to brainwash their children against the other parent. Those individuals are not just women, they're not just men, but invariably they come from both sexes, and they are narcissists. In severe cases, Gardner wrote, children with parental alienation syndrome must be removed from their mothers, transferred to the care of their fathers, and re-educated through what he called threat therapy. Alienation has never been accepted as a psychiatric disorder by the medical establishment. Yet today, mental health practitioners across the United States assess and treat it, particularly those who specialize in custody cases. Many of them collaborate closely, attending the same conferences, following the same protocols, and citing the same papers. Some run reunification programs like Family Bridges. Others offer family therapy or produce custody evaluations for family courts. Influenced by these experts, many judges have given the unproven concept the force of law. Though many custody cases settle out of court, in a small fraction, parents don't come to terms. Invariably, as I've explained elsewhere, that will involve narcissists because the unaware narcissist and the other parent who is probably unaware that they are dealing with a narcissist do not realize that as part of the agenda there is the need for control. Practitioners dealing with the two warring parents don't realize that one of the parties needs control, and therefore their attempts to reach reconciliation are doomed because of the necessity of control. In some instances, terms can be met even with a narcissist. That's because the narcissist deems the terms acceptable to them, and it's serendipity for the non-narcissist parent. As I regularly advise people dealing with such a situation, you ought not to expect, nor waste your time hoping that the narcissist will settle with you. Because of the narcissist's need for control, you, painted black, as the parent that is perhaps opposing a custody application or that you have put in your own custody application in regard to the children, becomes public enemy number one. In the circumstances, no matter how strong your evidence, the narcissist is not going to go, yes, I know that I'm a bad parent, I know that I've behaved reprehensibly, and there is a huge body of evidence against me. Therefore, I ought to be grateful for being given some contact once a week, and I'll accept that and build from there. The narcissist doesn't think in such terms. Why? Because the narcissism won't allow it. The suggestion that they should only have access to the child for, say, 2 or 3 hours on a Sunday is a threat to control. The suggestion that they've been a poor parent is a threat to control. The presentation of evidence which suggests that they're not a good parent is a threat to control. And therefore the narcissism will not allow any of that to be accepted. Instead, the evidence is poo-pooed, it's rejected, it's denied. That didn't happen, that person doesn't know what they're talking about, those witnesses are biased, that police report comes from a bent police officer, none of it adds up. You've poisoned the child against me, the children love me, they don't think that way, they want to spend more time with me, but they don't because of what you say about me, because you're an awful human being. Suggesting that I only have a limited amount of time with them, why should I? I'm their parent. I should be involved with them. You're only trying to limit my time with them because you're an uncaring, alienating, horrible parent. And thus, those suggestions are threats to control, which means the narcissist isn't going to go, I'm backed into a corner here, aren't I? Okay, I'll reach terms. Instead, their narcissism tells them they are not in the wrong, the other parent is, and therefore to fight it. The non-narcissist parent finds themselves shaking their head. Why didn't they accept the evidence? It speaks for itself. Why do they continue to lie? The reason being the unaware narcissist does not see that they are lying. Their narcissism tells them that you're the liar. You're trying to alienate them from their children. They are a good parent. Remember, they see the world through a distortion field, which is their narcissism. Furthermore, all of that amounting a threat to control, it has to be nullified. And the court process then lends itself to certain narcissists, particularly those of a mid-range nature and greater, although greaters are very rare, so you're more likely to meet mid-range narcissists in the court process, to have a platform to cry about how badly they've been treated. Accusations of parental alienation, where in actual fact the non-narcissist parent is doing the right thing in keeping the narcissist parent away from the children, or certainly hasn't smeared, are very common accusations from mid-range narcissists because of their sizable victim mentality. What? Me? I'm a really good parent, tells the world because of facade management. I can't believe that you're trying to stop me seeing my children. These things never happened. You have been poisoning them against me. And of course, certain narcissists, where they're mid-range, they have a decent level of intelligence, and therefore their narcissism is able to weave what can sometimes be a relatively convincing narrative. Those of you who found yourself in that situation will have been exasperated by the fact that the narcissist keeps maintaining that they haven't done anything wrong, keeps blaming you, and of course, because you're only human, occasionally you as the non-narcissist parent will have lost your temper. You might have turned up late. You might have said something to the children about the behaviour of the narcissist, and all of that then is thrown in your face because the narcissist uses that as evidence that you're the poor parent and that you're the one that is trying to alienate, that you're smearing. In actual fact, of course, it's the other way around. In many of the contested cases, one parent accuses the other of alienating the children. The most intense disputes arise in cases where one parent alleges spousal or child abuse, and the other responds with a claim of alienation. Again, it is not uncommon where a narcissist is involved that they engage in some form of spousal/child abuse because of their sense of entitlement, need to assert control. And therefore, the non-narcissist parent legitimately states, you've been abusing the child and you've been abusing me. Where the child also speaks up about that abuse, the response of the narcissist is not to admit it, of course, but to turn around and say, this didn't happen, you're making the child tell lies, you are trying to alienate me from my child. Interestingly, alienation claims are highly gendered. Men level the accusation against women nearly 6 times as often as women level it against men, one study suggests. That landmark study, published in 2020, found that in cases when mothers alleged abuse and fathers responded by claiming alienation, the mothers stood a startlingly high chance of losing custody. Thus, in those instances, you will have male narcissists who are being accused of abuse, and therefore they respond to defend themselves with a claim of alienation. But it must also be the case that one doesn't lose sight of the fact that a female narcissist may well engage, of course, in a false accusation of abuse and engage in alienating the children, and therefore the man responds accordingly, honestly and truthfully, that there wasn't any abuse, and in actual fact alienation takes place. As I will keep reminding you, parental alienation, when occasioned by a narcissist, takes 2 forms. The instance of the narcissist who has abused, but when accused of it, turns around and says, didn't happen, you are turning the children against me, and instances where the narcissist makes up false accusations about the non-narcissist parent to turn the children against that parent based upon lies. Occasionally, parents accused of alienation are cut off from their children altogether. Since 2000, judges have sent at least 600 children to reunification programs that recommend the temporary exile of the trusted parent, a collaborative investigation revealed. While the programs suggest a no-contact period of 90 days, this term is routinely extended and may last years, according to an analysis of tens of thousands of pages of court papers and program records. Of course, a 90-day period, 3 months, when extended and could go to years, means that the parent who no longer has contact is placed in a very difficult position. Where it's a narcissist who has got hold of the children, in such circumstances, they are able to continue the smearing, albeit it's not going to happen as often as the non-narcissist parent may fear. The reason being, they are not going to come up on the radar that much because of the imposed no-contact period. If the child, of course, makes mention of the no-contact parent, that threatens the control of the narcissist. The way to nullify that, of course, is to explain, well, I'm sorry, Tabitha, but as a consequence of your mum's behaviour, you're not able to see her. I know it's very sad and I would prefer that it was otherwise, but she's brought it on herself with the lies that she has told. Remember, the narcissist isn't going to hold back from telling untruths about you. They are not going to think to themselves, this is between two adults and I therefore should not involve the children in the nitty-gritty of what the allegations are. The narcissist doesn't care about that because the narcissist not only has no emotional empathy for both you as the non-narcissistic parent and the children, but also their narcissism compels them to behave this way for the purposes of the assertion of control. However, during that no-contact period, the no-narcissist parent isn't going to keep coming up on the radar as much as they might imagine. Firstly, they can't have anything to do with the children, and therefore, if they're being sensible, they won't be having anything to do with the narcissist. Thus, they're not coming up on the radar, and therefore it's as if they do not exist. Because they don't exist, the narcissist does not have to take steps to nullify their presence, nullify the threat to control. Thus, the level of smearing actually drops off. It's only where other people make mention of the non-narcissist parent to the narcissist, where perhaps children make mention of them, perhaps it's brought up by the authorities, that's when the narcissist has to respond through further smearing. It's a difficult period of time for the non-narcissist parent, particularly where it's been extended, and it's necessary for that non-narcissist parent to understand what has happened and to recognise what can be done when that period of no contact ends. Certainly, frustrating as it might be, the worst thing that the no-contact parent can do during that period is attempt to circumvent the no-contact period. The reason being is this will make them look bad in the eyes of the court, the narcissist will use it against them, and it brings you up on the radar, resulting in further smearing, resulting in the emphasis and ramifications being repeated to the children about the allegations of the non-narcissist parent being abusive. Difficult as it might be, and of course, invariably with surging emotional thinking, it is far better for the no-contact parent to have to sit and wait it out. It is not fair, but fairness is not the issue here. It's about avoiding giving further ammunition to the parent that is seeking to cause the alienation. Indeed, by demonstrating that the no-contact parent can abide by the court order, to demonstrate that they're putting the interests of the child first, it will actually act in their favour. But too often what happens is, driven by a sense of injustice, as their addiction to the narcissist, their emotional thinking corrupts their empathic trait of justice. They believe this is not fair. I haven't done anything wrong and he or she has ended up with the children and I'm not allowed to see them. Accordingly, they rail against this, complaining, perhaps putting stuff on social media which comes to the attention of the narcissist, which the narcissist will not hesitate to bring to the attention of the court, making the non-narcissist parent look bad. In such situations, I regularly advise this is a little bit like being caught in quicksand. The more that you struggle, the quicker you'll sink. What you need to do is keep still and await rescue, i.e., keep still and await the expiration of this time period. No matter how unjust you feel that it is, and you're entirely correct that it is, you have to wait it out, because any attempt to prove otherwise during this period just adds grist to the mill. All you're doing is walking straight into the narcissist trap of demonstrating that you can't be trusted, that you are making it all about you, that you will not accept what the court has to say, that you won't leave the children alone. All of those things will be used against you by the narcissist, and it's important that you do not do so. Thus, if you find yourself in the unfortunate position of being placed in a no-contact period by a court, what you should focus on is understanding what it is that you're dealing with, ensuring you obey this no-contact period, cooperate with the authorities, and focus upon the accumulation of your evidence so that when it ends, you can perhaps present this to the court to change the situation moving forward. In Part 4, I shall continue my examination of the situation of parental alienation. Join me there.